What is up, Entourage? It's the Fantasy Football Rapper here with another video. Always thinking outside the box. This video is about fantasy football team hacks. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you like what you see, make sure you hit that thumbs up, and more importantly, subscribe and turn on that bell notification because you don't want to miss new cutting edge videos like these that you could only see on this channel. Well guys, team hacks, let's get into it. Okay guys, so I drafted over the weekend, and you know, sometimes things don't go as planned when it comes to drafting, right? And that's why I always say, guys, mocks are crocs. If you expect your draft to go like it did in the mock, you are a dead fish in the water. And most of you have drafted already. For the few that haven't, I'll give you an example of what happened to me this weekend. So I went running back heavy early. I had the first pick. I got Saquon. My next turn on at 2-3, I got Montgomery and Kerryon Johnson. Now, I was hoping for, I knew there was a possibility this wouldn't happen, but I was hoping I would get Godwin in that 4-5 turn. Probably Tyler Boyd as well. However, Godwin got taken at the end of the third, and Boyd got taken one pick ahead of me by my brother. So I was left with Cooper Kupp and Kenny Golladay on my next turn. So I was fine with those because to me, they're all in the same tier. Now, I do like Godwin the best out of that tier, but Godwin, Tyler Boyd, Cooper Kupp, even Ridley, Kenny Golladay, all those players, Robert Woods, are part of the same tier. So I got two in that tier. I was cool with that. The next round, there wasn't any wide receivers that I really thought, you know, I'd take over a potential stud back like Duke Johnson. And I also reached a little bit for Darwin Thompson. He was technically either my last pick in the 6th round or the first pick in the 7th. Same thing, about a 7th round value. Now, this was before Shady went to Kansas City, where I could have probably now got Darwin probably in double-digit rounds. Some leagues, he goes undrafted. But I went with what I felt at the time. However, it goes now to the 8th and 9th turn. Now wide receivers are really dry. Now, I do like Dante Pettis, and I picked him because he was the best player available. I think if he's healthy, he can be possibly a wide receiver 1, but even top 15 potential. I think he could sneak into that, you know, Godwin, Kupp, Golladay, that tier, which is right below the, you know, the first tier with Juju, Adams, D-Hop, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I have big concerns when it comes to Dante Pettis in regards to injuries. He has the ability. He's in the right offense, a throwing offense, potent offense. He's great at separation, led the league in that last year, but he was injured for most of last year. He's dealing with the groin injury now, so he looks like one of those guys that could be injury prone. Now, I'm not one to carry many receivers on my bench. I believe you should only have 1 to 2 bench receivers because receivers rarely go down, and I try to get really good high floor receivers, which I think Kupp and Golladay are, and then I can, you know, rotate that wide receiver 3. So I don't like holding more than 1 or 2 receivers. What I did, because again, it's a 3 wide receiver league, so, and a lot of people use a wide receiver as their flex, so wide receivers were running short. So I only ended up with 1 receiver on my bench, and that was Deebo Samuel. So this is kind of a hack. You see, I'm very concerned about not, like I mentioned, not Dante Pettis' ability, but his injury concern. Now I have him with Deebo Samuels, who is ultimately a cuff. And I say that because I think between the two of them, I will at least have a high wide receiver 3 with possibility for more. Okay, like I said, I think the duo combined can be a top 15 to 20 receiver, and I have them as my wide receiver 3 as long as Kupp and Golladay stay healthy. So that's a nice little trio, and that's a way you can assure yourselves if something like that happens to you, or maybe you're in a scenario that you have Dante Pettis. If he's your starter, then I would recommend cuffing him at Deebo because they selected him as a 2nd receiver taken in a deep wide receiver class. In the 2nd round, he has just as much talent as Pettis on a throwing offense. So everything I like about Pettis, I can also say about Deebo. And if Pettis goes down, which is a very possible, now I won't skip a beat. with a guy like Deebo. And there's a couple of other receivers that if you have them on your team, or if you're thinking about drafting them because they just slip too far and you can't pass them up, then I recommend you doing something similar. The other receiver is Alshon Jeffrey. I recommend that nobody draft Jeffrey, but I'm speaking to those who may have drafted him already. You caught on to my content late. If you drafted Jeffrey, what you should do if you have an extra bench spot, I don't recommend, holding 2 benches on one wide receiver position unless you have a deeper team, or unless you're like me, I don't have any other receiver, so it was advantageous and smart for me to cuff Pettis. Plus, I'm cuffing him with somebody that's really good. In the case of Alshon Jeffrey, I really like this kid, Arecega. So it's kind of really similar. If Jeffrey's healthy, he could give you wide receiver 3 numbers, although I think he'll be inconsistent. Wentz likes to spread the ball around and use his tight ends. But if you drafted Jeffrey, you have an extra bench spot, you don't have a lot of wide receivers on your team, then I think tagging him or cuffing him with Arecega, I could see Arecega, if either Alshon Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson, 2 injury-prone receivers, go down, he'll be inserted in that starting lineup and they won't skip a beat. He's ultra-talented. He's like a Jeffrey clone when it comes to body. He's a big guy, 6'3", can be a red zone threat. Loved how he looked in preseason, and everything we're hearing is that this kid has a bright future. So I think if you have Alshon Jeffrey, if you have the room, definitely, 12-plus teams, 14 leagues, definitely, then I would. And if you're in a dynasty, you definitely want to get Arecega-Whiteside. The last player, guys. And it's kind of like, this one's kind of unique. If you have either Will Fuller or Keke Coutee as a starting wide receiver. Now, if these guys are your bench receivers, same thing goes with Pettis. If he's your bench receiver, you don't need to cuff him with Deebo Samuels. The same thing, if Jeffrey's your 4th receiver, you don't need to cuff him with Arecega-Whiteside. I'm only talking about teams that are starting these receivers like I was. Dante Pettis is currently my wide receiver 3. So if Coutee or Will Fuller are your wide receiver 3, I recommend cuffing either or, not with each other, but with Kenny Stils. Kenny Stils can play multiple positions. He can play the slot, or he can be used as a deep threat. He can play that Will Fuller role, because Will Fuller, let's face it, he still hasn't proven to us he can stay healthy. Same thing with Coutee, who right now might not even play week 1. So Kenny Stils is a talented receiver. He's been productive in the past, and now he's going into a system that likes to throw the ball with Deshaun Watson, and he can definitely be a wide receiver 3 if one of those guys goes down. And again, if you're short on wide receiver and you need to secure yourself that wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3 range, I think that combination can give you the necessary numbers that you'll need throughout the season. Another guy in this unique situation is Julian Edleman. Chances are, if you have Edleman on your team, you spent a nice draft pick, probably late 3rd, 4th round pick. Edleman is 32 years old, has high usage, and in the past has proven to be extremely injury prone. So if that's the case, if something were to happen to Edleman, or when it happens, I don't wish anybody bad, but chances are it will. He was already dealing with an injury in the offseason, injured it the game he got back. So those are all red flags to me. Even though it's a wrist or a thumb, whatever the case may be, you got to take the necessary precautions, because that's a big hole in your lineup if he's your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. So what I suggest doing is this kid Jakobi Meyers, who everybody's been talking about all offseason, has looked absolutely brilliant in preseason. Cuff Edleman with Jakobi Meyers. It's only people that have Edleman, unless you're in a deeper team, 14, 16 team leagues or dynasty, then you could own Jakobi Meyers by himself. But if you have Edleman as a starting receiver, it's going to be advantageous, and these are league saving moves, guys. And they're going to help you out, because now if something happens to Edleman, Jakobi Meyers, with his talent in that system that features the slot, whoever's in that slot position is going to do work, guys. So take advantage, be smart, and make sure you cuff Edleman with Jakobi Meyers. Quick video, quick hack. I don't think I've heard anybody talk anything about this, but these are ways to save your season, to make your team, to maximize its potential, because again, later on, it's going to be harder to come across these guys in the waiver wire, or, it's also advantageous for you guys to save your money when you really need it, and for that really stud player, save that waiver, save that FAAB money when that Phillip Lindsay or Nick Chubb comes around and you're ready to pounce, all right? As always, guys, if you have any questions, comment down below. Please don't forget to give me a sub either. And until next time, peace.